In today's episode, we're going to talk about the cost of QLYFT and how that affects your project. I brought in VP of Operations Ken Culbreth and VP of Sales Blair Neihouser. You guys ready?
We're ready.
Yeah.
Let's get to it.
First one we've done together, dude. This
Yes.
is fun.
Yeah.
And we get to talk about QLYFT, so, I mean, obviously you brought Ken.
Well,
Yeah.
I had to bring Ken.
Yeah. That's my favorite.
Whatever. Well, yeah, I'll start. Yeah, I mean, it's a big thing. Obviously, it's different, right? It's different in the industry. No one else does it, right? We got a patent on it, all the cool things, right? And rightfully so. It's different. It's unique. Yeah, I mean, people ask, is that similar to barn raising, of what that used to be back in the old days, whatever. It's obviously different, right? But, so, I mean, to address the question, and it's a logical question, right? I mean, depending on how many videos you've seen of all the stuff we put out on it, right? It can look like a lot, right? You got some big pieces of iron coming to your site. You got some big old cylinders and the brain, right? Computers and all that stuff, right? So there's a lot coming out there, right? And so to say that it reduces your project by a massive amount, that's not true, right? But to say it increases by a lot, that's not true either, right? We've seen it stay fairly similar, but I would say if it edged one way or the other, it's going to edge to a little bit more expensive. I mean, I think that's the reality of it. But let's think about that, right? And you and I have talked about this a decent amount, as well as our whole team. Mm-hmm. Why would you buy a Denali, right? Let's use that. Let's use a truck, right? Why would you buy a Denali and expect to pay the same or maybe less, right? Than I don't know what the other standard limited package, whatever, might be, because there's different things, right? You have a different output at the end, or you have a different set of pieces of value, right, as to why you buy the Denali. And so I see that very similar in the QLYFT, or in the QLYFT conversation around what does that do to your project, because the intent there, right, and you can maybe talk about this a little bit deeper, but right, the intent was driven out of safety, right, and how we wanted to invest in our people, namely our crew people, building the buildings. But then it spawned into all these other things, right? And that's why the Q is there, right? Which is around quality and how it allows our men to be constructing this building, right? Instead of it being 30 feet up in the air, you're down on the ground 6 to 7 feet, right, at the low side, where you've got big bunks of material. And so wind and the things that happen at 25 to 30 feet, not only wind, but your tense up of your body, you're just working in a different environment, right? And all of that plays to the customer in terms of what they're getting at the end of the day, right? They're getting a building built by a set of workers that are in a different environment than they would have been traditionally, right? Not only that, you actually as a customer get to see that thing night after night, right? You get to talk to your foreman. You get to have what we always encourage is kind of the evening walkthrough to make sure everything's good, right? That's right there at eye level. That never used to be possible, right? And you get to see things as a customer that you didn't used to be able to see, right? Primarily your roof. And so there's if you go and watch all the videos, we talk through all the things, right, of scheduled dependability and less equipment traffic on, and maybe further, distances away from the building. You're much closer to the building footprint itself. And so, I think my answer, I'll be curious where your head takes you. There's probably some other angles of this whole thing, but my head takes me to, it's not way cheaper and it's not way more expensive. It is a little bit more, but there's things for that we're trying to provide to the customer that are different than traditional build or the old way of building or whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah, and I would just add to that, Blair, I think that when you talk about the idea was definitely born from safety. It was, man, if somebody falls off of this building, with the retractable, that thing stretches so far before it actually retracts, and you start doing all the math, and the thing is hooked up to a person's back at 5 feet. So you've got 5 feet you got to deal with there.
You did all this math?
I did do this math.
Okay.
I really
You're
did.
a tall guy, right?
Yeah.
So I could see you being worried about it.
Yeah. So
Whatever.
You add all this up, and it's like, man, are guys safe on buildings? Actually, in some ways, height is safer. Being 50 feet in the air by the time all the safety things, because you don't want things to just lock up on you with fall protection. Otherwise, it's too much impact on your body.
Yeah,
So
it's jarring.
So there is some of that. So anyways, but yeah, it started from safety. It's like, well, why can't we just build these things on the ground? So years and years, you'll see here and there where somebody built a small roof on the ground, and then they decided to crane it up and do some of that. But it's like, man, how do you do that on a big building? And so it started from safety. Then it turned into, well, heck, we could build higher quality. And Blair, you talked about the elevations and the heights. I mean, I would say 95% of your flashings are done, maybe 90% are done at 3'6" off the ground. You know what I'm saying? That's where all of the soffit, the fascia, the F&J flashings, the base trims, all those are happening down low. And then we put your roof on and we raise it up. I loved your example of showing a customer that they can go up and look at their own roof without fear of getting hurt or anything like that.
Have to get up in their own little boom lift or something.
And it's been really cool, TJ, because customers are giving us that feedback. You know, we asked for it and we got it. We have customers walking on our roofs and they're saying, hey, what about this? What about that? What about this? And where that's acceptable on other old school builds because customers can't see it, now they see it. And we're willing to stand behind that and say, yeah, we did do that. And we are going to change that roof sheet. We're sorry we didn't see it or whatever that might be. But we're owning those sorts of things. And when I think of cost, though, I think what you said, you're going to pay a little bit more for the building, but think about the entire project.
Yeah.
You know, so we had a QLYFT just last week where the customer went up after we had done our work and they put a catwalk in. And he was out there in the evening, he had some lights on and he put a catwalk in there. And then when we raised the building up, he's going to have a safer building because of that. He'll be able to walk through his attic. And he didn't have to pay us to do it. We've had people put electricity in their trusses and they can do all that from the ground. And our retention numbers have skyrocketed. Yeah. So you talk about cost, and I know that that is one thing, but how do you put a value on the fact that our retention has nearly doubled? We've got about a 30% increase in just retention. And I believe that has a lot to do with the fact that we've got quality carpenters that don't want to climb and hang off buildings. Some of it's because they're scared of heights. Some of it's just their age, right? Can you do that when you're 50? And most of us would say that gray-haired guy that's 50 years old is the guy you want putting your cabinets in your house.
Yeah.
Right?
Or for sure your pieces of trim, your gutters, right? Those things that we're now able to do down low that take that detail.
So we can bring those guys in and we can retain those individuals. And if an individual has an opportunity to work for a pole barn company that has QLYFT or not QLYFT in a certain region, who are they going to go with? I mean, it's kind of an obvious answer, right? So I think you're getting better workers. And that's why I say, well, is it cost? Because there's just other areas of value that come in when it comes to QLYFT. But we've really enjoyed the quality we've been able to bring in there. And you said even working off 6-7 feet, it's lower than that. Yeah. And those guys are standing on the ground, which is the biggest thing. They're not on a lower ladder. They're on the ground. So it's been really advantageous for our customers. And I believe that over time, we're going to be able to squeeze efficiencies more and more out of the price for our customers.
Yeah. We love to look at something, right? As a consumer, right? You love to look at something and you go with your snap thought, right? As to, man, I see all of this. It's got to mean X, right? Y or Z or whatever, right? And so I appreciate the question. And I think it obviously comes from a very sincere spot that people have that knee-jerk thought or whatever. But hopefully these things help to, especially to your point, broaden our horizon, hopefully a customer's horizon as to what's the real impact to the total project, right? Because at the end of the day, FBI is a piece of it. We're normally a fairly large piece, right? It's depending on the project and the type and what's all going on. But there's other aspects, right? And so while our way of operating has changed, and obviously we believe for the better in what that's providing to a customer, we always encourage someone to look at the broader picture, right? And I think that's some of the things you're speaking to of what it does for our people, what it does for the field base that we have out there working on our buildings, and what that means for the customer, but also how it impacts the other trades. I mean, there's just many facets that go along with one thing being different helps a lot of other things, right? And all of that, we hope now and through time will end up being a better, high quality product for the end user at a valuable offering, right? That you're getting for the dollars you're spending, you're getting exactly, if not more than what you expected, right? That's our aim, right? Are we perfect? We're in construction, so no, right? You even talked about in that transparency, there's things that we mess up, don't see, whatever, haven't gotten back to yet. And so that's where the feedback from the customer comes in. But our aim is a better output for our customer, right? And so that's been the goal internally for our people, right? Is a better output for our people and how that trickles down to the customer.
Yeah. And it even ties into other things that, like, you know, we've been on the leading edge. And I think even in safety in the post frame industry for decades now.
Yep.
And I think we're still, you know, the NFBA and different post frame organizations, we're still the leader there. Our safety director is the guy that leads those meetings. And, you know, so you've got retractables, you've got harnesses, things like that. So when you think about those running across the roof and all that, if that's not on the roof, think of the quality you're getting there. You know, just not rubbing on your metal, things like that.
Yeah, those things aren't little like soft nylon pieces of string, right? It's
Cables.
a wire, right? It's a set of wires being a cable, right? That flapping around. And I know you love talking about microfractures, right? Which is legit,
there's
right?
microfractures in the paint.
Yeah.
There is. I almost said it, and I thought you'd make fun of me, so I didn't do it. But that's true, everybody.
I still did. But all that's legit, and it speaks to, again, the output to the customer is they're going to own this sucker for life, more likely than not, right? And so that all comes down to looking at the lifespan of this building, what are you wanting to invest in and what are you confident in, right? Our whole shtick is build with confidence, right? QLYFT is a massive part of that, is because we want someone to be confident for the decades they're going to own this thing, right? Not the 10 minutes they're going to spend signing the contract, right? It goes way beyond that because it's going to stay in there forever as long as they own the property, right? It's with them. And so it's a big deal.
All right. Well, appreciate you guys stopping by again. As always, thank you. Yeah. And we'll catch you in the next one.
Pleasure.
All right.
Thanks,
you.
TJ.